Among the tall and silent pines of Rotary Park in Provo, Utah, lie strange mounds of earth, like this one, that one, and that one. Were they naturally formed, or were they made by people long ago? Around this park, the ruins of an ancient and forgotten civilization lay pretty undisturbed for decades. These ruins are located all over the city of Provo, Utah. These grounds seem to have been the home of an ancient, complex, yet mysterious civilization. These are the remnants of the Kiddos.
I am Ethan Hendricks, time archaeologist from the Plain Old Museum on Sumont Street in Provo, Utah. Don't try to Google it. Google doesn't know where it is either. Now, this is the ancient and developed civilization of the Kiddos.
There are 3 small pavilions near a temple known as the Blue Temple. They have rows of benches, and around them, strange containers which contain remnants of food, utensils, plates, bowls, cups, and bottles.
Now on the site, we have these very huge and bulky things that we think are altars. We believe that the Kiddos, when they would sit down to eat, they would first offer sacrifices to their gods. And so, first they would cast a bit of their food into the altar, and then maybe recite some ceremonial prayers, and then make an offering to the gods. And then they would eat with great splendor, and then when they have done that, they would once again make an offering of their gods. This time with their eating utensils and plates. And so they must have done this because obviously their gods must have loved to eat.
This is a classic Kiddo eco-fact. Here we have this sand pit. Other than the 2 poles in between, there's not much to look at. However, when we began to excavate the sand, we discovered what we thought lay in the mounds: human remains. By these remains, we can tell that the Kiddos were very much shorter than a full-grown adult today.
Here at the sand pit, we have discovered the mummified remains of 2 Kiddos. Here is H1, and we discovered her, and we've actually found these 2 shoes and socks magnificently preserved, buried with her. And we have the unexcavated mummy of J2. We have no idea how these 2 mummies were buried here, why they were buried here, but because H2 here has funerary objects, we can surmise that this is indeed a cemetery. Excavating J2 here. Making some more excavations, we have discovered that this sand pit is actually the cemetery for the poor and working class. The higher privileged classes is actually buried over at those mounds, which we've recently explored, and over there we have not discovered it yet, or excavated there yet, but we believe that's where the privileged and high class are. We need to do some more excavation to discover this mummy's story. Yeah.
In this area, there are a grand number of mounds formed years and years ago. Since they couldn't have been naturally formed, we believe that the Kiddos were responsible for building these mounds. What they used them for, no one really knows for sure. But we have formulated theories. Theory 1. These mounds seem to be very similar to the ones the ancient mound builders made. So judging from previous archaeological findings, the Kiddos may have used these as burial mounds. This would make sense, as these mounds are located just a little ways from the temple complex. Theory 2. These mounds could have been used for an ancient, simple, yet extremely esoteric ritual called rolling.
Is one of the largest mounds in the surrounding area, and thus the prime location to do the rolling ritual. We have discovered traces and remnants of wear and tear, which gives us the summation that this is indeed the where they did the rolling ritual. And we've actually found a direct descendant of the Kiddos. We have here a modern descendant of the ancient Kiddodians, known as a Kid. She has volunteered to perform for us the ancient rolling ritual. Unfortunately, they haven't learned English, and so they communicate through sticks and through grunts.
The Kiddos would lay themselves down on the crest of the ridge and would let themselves roll down. They would do this many times over. Why? Well, we don't have a clue.
Okay. We've discovered what looks like to be a malformed drinking vessel of the Kiddos. From what we can immediately tell is that it's constructed out of a substance that's similar to plastic. We sent it to the lab for further tests, and the reason why it's so crumpled is because of the strain of of being so buried in the earth for so long, and it's very malleable and I would say that it's repairable, and well, we believe that these are the funerary drinking vessels that accompany departed souls into the afterlife, giving them drink on their journey to their heaven and so they must have believed that their spirits are also limited by their physical wants and needs, and the presence of these might suggest that there might be another mummified corpse nearby. So let's start digging. I'm standing on a pictograph located in an area of the temple complex known as the Blacktop. We believe that this snail pictograph is an image of a guardian snail deity. As you can see here, there are numbers that is going in a spiral pattern to the center of the shell. What we believe is that a priest would start here and start walking around in a circular pattern in prayer, reach the center and offer his prayers up to heaven. And we also believe that when someone died, the funeral procession will also start here, go around, and reach the center where they will offer up the departed soul up into heaven, and then take the body to the graveyard down yonder. We have here a small red statue, which we believe to be a guardian statue that overlooks and protects the entire blacktop area of the temple complex. If you notice, it has two ears. One ear is facing east, one ear is facing west, and this face is facing south. Why it's facing south, we have no idea, but we're going to find out because we're archaeologists.
Hello? Can you hear me? Well, what you're listening to is my voice projected through the ancient Kiddodian communication devices, which were apparently very, very advanced for their age. And now, you can see here that it's actually connected all throughout the temple complex. Unfortunately, apparently there must have been some defaults because the communication system is not very far. And on the other temples, we have not found such communication devices. So,
we think that this communication device, a telephone pipe, must have been developed around the later period of the Kiddodian civilization.
There are 3 of these uniquely constructed cells, which we believe to be prison cells. All these cells are connected by a series of bridges.
Help! I'm stuck! I cannot get out! How? They probably used this to keep the kiddos who are probably the most vicious, the most crime-thirsty, the most aggressive, or maybe even and those who failed to pay their debts. They would lock these criminals in these cells and probably do who knows what to them. After all, they could have easily left them to starve. They could have left them to be open targets for public abuse. They could have been used for for them to bake in the sun, perhaps. I'm going through these tunnels to explore the other cells. This one must have been one of the prime cells because it's a bit more roomy and probably is able to hold a few more prisoners. And you come over here, they have skylights, so they do have some sense of freedom, but they couldn't escape, otherwise they would fall. And their bodies were not meant for such height, so if they fell here, they would die or be very, very wounded.
The small temple is the earliest known Kiddoic temple. This building displays the complexity, marvel, and mystery of Kiddoic architecture and engineering. There are multiple ways to get into the temple, but by the look of these steps, ladders, and chutes, entrance and exit into the temple must have been important and ritualistic. The Kiddos probably believed that they could only enter the temple up the steps and only exit the temple down the chutes. The reason for this, we once again have no idea.
After taking time to search, we finally figured out how the Kiddos were able to build these magnificent temples. We have here an ancient Kiddodian excavation tool that they used to dig the foundations of their gigantic temples. They were able to dig the holes to set in their poles, and after they had set in the foundations, they would cover it back up like so, and then they would actually start construction of the exterior walls and building it from the ground up. Now, we've done some researching and we found out that this particular tool is kind of limited on range and motion. So what we believe is that this is actually the top part of a much bigger machine buried who knows how deep under the ground. So we'll begin working on that with excavation, and we will release those findings to the public in some future dates. Behind me is one of the darkest discoveries we have made on the site. This is the execution site. Behind me are metal gallows. They would string prisoners up here on these hoops using whatever noose they used. We wonder how they could have built this terrible device. They obviously show that they were good metallurgists and that they were not afraid to use the death penalty, and from what we've discovered, they probably used it quite often.
Now the question is, what happened to the Kiddo civilization? Evidence shows that the civilization just suddenly disappeared. How, when, and why did they disappear? Where did they go? Popular theory is that the entire civilization was struck by a serious epidemic against which they had absolutely no immunity. Television. The Kiddo civilization was one of the most intricate and complex civilizations the world has ever known. Their ruins remind us of an age where anything is possible.
So what's it like to be a zombie?
It's a bit weird. It's more like people stare at you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here at the park. Are they all like looking at you like weirdo?
Yeah, sometimes, mostly.
It had nothing to do with the fact that you had hair or grass and dandelions in your hair, right?
No.
So Hannah, what was it like to be a cave woman?
It was like, cause I could do and not stupid.
Do you think you actually were able to communicate with those sticks?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Was it effective communication? Did you get your point across?
What?
Did you get your point across?
Oh, I think so. Do you know what I was saying?
I don't. I don't speak your language.
Then I guess you didn't.
Okay.